All right, everyone, this is Wild Phil's Osophy with a special guest, Jack Baker. Let's get wild, okay? So,
I don't know that I've ever gotten wild in my entire life.
I know, I've had people, I've had mixed actually feelings, whether I should keep saying that, you know?
I mean, it makes sense for you, but I'm definitely not a wild guy.
I've had people tell me, they're just like, dude, you're like a stepdad now. You live in the suburbs. You're like really happy that you're about to pay off your house. What the fuck is wild about you, bro? And I'm sort of like, I'm a changed man. I'm not proud of my past, but I will talk about it. I'm actually, what's funny is every person I tell this to, they fucking laugh their ass off. I'm gonna be a trauma speaker at high schools.
Well, that's awesome. I'm not gonna laugh. That's really cool.
Yeah, it is cool, but they're just like, you're gonna, because for example, so before I got into comedy, I was really afraid of going on stage because 5 years ago I went on stage for a week straight, bombed traumatically, and I was like, this is too much for me. So
I have never once been afraid to talk in front of people. Even going back to when I was a kid, I was never afraid to go in front of people and talk. It's completely foreign to me. I don't understand why people are afraid of it.
That's crazy. To me, that's crazy because that's wild to me. But it's because it's like you must have royalty in your family. Because have you heard about that shit about?
No, there's definitely no royalty in my family.
Because I'm half joking because I heard genetically when they say trauma passes on genetically, that the reason why people are afraid to talk on stage is because of back in the day, they'd have the jester, when the king's ready to fucking kill people.
Yeah.
The jester would come in to try and cheer him up to be like, no, we don't have to rape and pillage these peasants, and so that's why going in or it would be somebody would get accused of being a witch in the Wild West and they have to prove that they're not so they don't get impaled. That's the only reason why I see it.
Yeah, I don't see any of that at all. I think that I just don't find it. I find it way more intimidating to just be in a group of people.
In a group of people?
Because I think that it's because when you're talking in front of people, there's rules that govern how the interaction is supposed to go.
Okay.
And I understand those rules. And so when I'm in charge, they have to do what I say.
Yeah.
But then when I'm in a group of people, it's just a free-for-all. And I find that way more intimidating. I have a lot of social anxiety, which is, I think some people think it's weird to have social anxiety, but not anxiety to public speak.
Yeah. So I guess to start off, I just always start off with is there anything new in the past 2 weeks that you want to talk, rant about anything? I always I bitch a lot, so that's how I start this off.
This is like a bitch fest. I don't really have anything to bitch about. I feel like things have been going really well. So
yeah, so I've been Ubering because I basically saved up enough money to where I don't really have to have a steady job because I've been a welder for 15 years. So I just Uber for kind of extra scratch because I'm gonna pay off my house.
Yeah,
dude.
Well, that's very exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's so fucking.
We are nowhere close paying off our house.
Yeah,
we are still paying private mortgage insurance.
Yeah, I've gotten in I'm not gonna say who, but I recently got in an argument with a person because they're like, well, that's because you're privileged, bro. I'm like, dude, I used to be poor. I'm not joking. This is crazy this is foreign to people, but I kind of I was born here, but I kind of had an immigrant life. I would say I'm a Polish American because I didn't learn English till I was 10. And so what I learned is I literally saved all my money since I was in 6th grade. And so that I was I'm never going to fucking pay rent because I just looked at it do I want to rent Mario Kart 64 or could I just fucking buy it and save my money, So, but
I thought you were going to be talking about houses and apartments, and you went to Mario Kart 64.
Well, I'm saying that's where that drive started.
Yeah.
I would never fucking. I didn't want to move out of my house with my mom until I saved up enough for to get a condo.
Yeah, I didn't move out until I was 24. 5, I think. And I got an apartment, and I was there for 1 year, and then I got married, and so we bought a house.
Nice.
So,
yeah,
but I was there. Like, my wife and I both lived at home for most of the time until we got married.
And it
saved a lot of money. It was nice. So
it is nice.
I'm not gonna complain about that.
Yeah, and I don't think it's like a old boomer thing, bitching about why the fuck haven't you moved out yet. It's like,
I don't care. It was nice. They liked having me there because I would like clean stuff and like cut the grass and like take care of them.
Oh, dude, I don't know if this makes me like Tim the Toolman Taylor or something, but cutting grass to me is so fucking relaxing. Like,
I agree. I think it's really nice. It's like so easy to do. It's so simple, but it's like something that you can like accomplish like in the morning on Saturday, and then you're like, you've accomplished something for your day.
Yeah.
So if you sit around and do nothing the rest of the day, you could be like, well, I did something.
Yeah, but even that smell, and like I don't know why. Well, there's like a private pilot license airport near here, so like even I'll like wake up to hearing helicopters, and it just relaxes the fuck out of me. I think it's hilarious because like a Vietnam guy would be having
weird.
A panic attack.
Like, helicopters should not relax you. Usually that's like a sign that something terrible has happened.
Yeah, like you're on a journalist at the Gaza Strip or something.
I was thinking more just like the news helicopters. They don't like come around for good things normally.
Yeah. But I do like it relaxes the shit out of me, like lawn mowing. But what I was gonna get to was so yeah, I was Ubering, and this I have to write a bit about this. I don't even care if I fucking talk about it, but I picked up this. So first off, I went to this place. I have to bitch about this. I went to this place called like Treasure Trove.
What is that?
Or it's called Treasure Hunt. They're opening all these locations where I'm gonna fucking ruin it for any scavengers out there, but so any packages that don't get delivered through Amazon, like that don't make it, or somebody didn't pick them up, or like it auto filled in the wrong address. This building collects all those packages, and they just sell everything for one price.
That sounds awesome.
So it's like Fridays, everything is $8. Saturdays $7, Sundays $6.
Do you just like get a random box that went to someone's house, or do you like get to pick
you get to see what it is?
That's why do you not like this store?
Because I went there. There were people camping out in this fucking cold. Like, for people who don't know, it's been like what, 20 degrees, almost 10. Like, and the place that I went to, there's one in Elgin. I went to Arlington Heights. There were people there camping out overnight. The thing that made me laugh is I'm like, half these people look like they would not even fucking make it to work on time, but they're definitely gonna be they're gonna be camping out for this fucking store.
Man, I don't see what the problem is. I think this sounds like an amazing store.
It is, but
$8 for a box of mysteries? Like, what?
Well, no, that's the thing. That's not mystery. They showed. I mean, obviously they're gonna take pictures of what's gonna bring people there. Brand new, vacuum sealed, like still plastic sealed Xbox One, $8. Brand new Nintendo Switch, $8. My wife saw a Roku remote, the one that's more expensive because it has the phone, the auxiliary jack or whatever, $8.
Our Roku remote broke, so we have to use the app on our phones.
Oh man,
that's where we're at right now.
But I went there. It opened at 9. I showed up at like 9:50. It was like Black Friday, and I'm sure it's going to be like that every week. And what they do to get people coming is I don't believe that this is true. They say that every hour that they restock. So you have 1,000 people just scavenging through shit like Black Friday, and then they're just throwing new shit on top, and then people are fighting for it again. It's going to be a great place to film World Star Hip Hop material.
See, I think that sounds awesome. I also love Black Friday shopping.
Mm-hmm. I've never gone Black Friday.
Really?
Never.
I used to go when I was a kid. It was awesome.
I think it's because I was just like, honestly, I was very poor, and my parents couldn't speak English well enough to know that like welfare or like food stamps were an option.
Yeah.
So I would like live in. I remember like the first house I was in. we were in a house, but it was like 20 people sharing it. And like I was writing a bit about that like my grandma used to this is so unhealthy. I blame it why I'm fat because I'm lazy. But she used to save bacon grease in a Folgers can, and it would be like that was breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then one day I'm like, well, what the fuck is for dessert? She just sprinkled sugar on. So, but
see, that was the thing. Like, we were poor, but that we knew we would have like a budget for when it came to like Christmas.
Yeah.
And so we knew how much money my mom would spend on us for Christmas. So if we'd go Black Friday shopping, we could get more things out of that budget.
Yeah.
So that's how we learned how to do it, was to like get the most out of what she would spend on us.
Thing was, by the time that I showed up, which is only 50 minutes late, there was a line 3 times around wrapped like a fucking snake, you know?
Yeah, well, see, that's your problem because you showed up after it opened. Like, I don't do anything if I can't go as soon as it opens.
Yeah. And by the time, like, I went and I looked around, everything that was there is like, I'm like, this would normally be $8 by the time I went there. Like, it was like hooks for your bikes on the wall, or like stuff you'd see at Goodwill, you know?
Yeah, but some of that stuff is useful. I think this sounds like a great store.
But so what ended up happening is I was just like, fuck this, I'm gonna go Uber. And I pick up this guy who is obliterated from a bar at 9:50 a.m.
That's not great.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just gonna keep quiet because anything I say could start a fight with him. And it almost did, because I picked him up. And I don't know if you know, like with the Uber app, if you're speeding or doing something wrong, it starts beeping.
I've actually never used Uber, so
like
I don't know. I've never ridden in one. I've never driven. I've never done anything with an Uber.
Yeah,
I just drive. So
yeah. It's not bad. I used Lyft before, but the funny thing about, I don't think I ever mentioned it on here. This is so bad. Literally one of my first trips out of 5, I hit somebody.
That's not good.
Because I picked
up... That's a 20% ratio. That's not good.
Right. Well, I went to Wrigleyville, and you know all the fucking Wrigleyville bros that are getting obliterated. It said there was 2 people to pick up, but it was just a fucking gaggle of 5 drunks our age. And you know when in the city, like, on the corners, there's like where the fire hydrant is, the curb is like painted yellow. So I stopped there because that was the only opening to where I could like stop and be out of the way. And it's the edge of the corner. So these 4 guys pile in my car, and I'm like, okay, cool, because I'm thinking like I'm gonna get a better tip by going fast. I back up, and one of the drunks was tying his shoe behind me. So I just hit him real quick. And then I'm like, I got to fucking drop these guys off before they sober up and realize I hit one of their friends. And he just went and he's like, oh, man, I'm sorry, dude. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Are you okay? He's like, yeah, dude, that's kind of funny. I'm like, yeah, it is. Where are you going? Anyways, I pick up this drunk by this store in Arlington Heights, and immediately get pulled over by a cop. That's the first time out of like 300 rides that I got pulled over. I know I wasn't speeding. That's why I mentioned, like, it starts beeping when you go over the speed. And he's like, you know how fast you're going? I'm like, no, I don't know. It's 35 here. I think the most 40. He's like, no, you were going 55. I'm like, okay. And then the guy behind, he's like, he wasn't going 55. He's like, is this guy okay? I go, yeah, I'm Ubering. And he came from a bar. He's like, yeah, listen, my brother's a cop. He got shot and he's in the hospital and we're trying to rush to him. And I'm like, okay, yeah, what he said, you know? And they're like, okay, well, we're giving you a warning. And then we pull away. He's like, ha, my brother died last year. Those fucking new pigs don't know it. I'm like, yeah. And then I go, I'm like, so that's how you get out of them. And I started like small talking. I'm like, the truth is I've gotten out of 5 tickets by just because people have told me that I kind of look like a tougher guy. I've gotten out of 5 tickets just making myself cry, and they feel bad. So I'm like, yeah, man, those fucking cops, man, it's funny. Like, he's like, no, you don't understand. They're having a hard time. He just like switched on me. I'm like, yeah, they are. He's like, yeah, you be careful what you say, because I'm a cop. I'm like, yeah, that's right. I'm like, I'm not talking to this fucking guy.
That's a lot. I would never want to talk. I don't like people riding in my car, and I don't like talking to people that I don't know.
Yeah.
So like that seems like the worst job in the entire world to me.
It does have its flaws. I'm happy with it because I've talked about this many times before, but I was a union sheet metal guy, and I'm 35. I got into it late, and because I didn't know anybody, but the hazing that happens is unbelievable. It's literally like prison level hazing. And I'm like, dude, I'm not fucking putting up with this at 40. I got enough money saved up. So not having a boss and not really caring to have to deal with people is like, that's fine with me, I got 1-star rating because I was listening to Stavros Halkias.
Yeah.
He was riffing with Joe Rogan about Catholic child molesters. So somebody just wrote, whatever was on the radio was absolutely disturbing, But, which that sucks because I'm like, it's like, plus I listen to a lot of like crazy fucking death metal. So the moment somebody walks in, it's like, all right, switch to 1950s big band jazz,
Hey, there's nothing wrong with 50s big band jazz.
No, I love it. It's just like it depends on like what mood I'm in and all that, but I haven't had too many. The only other fucked up situation I had Ubering was so I just started like in March, so I accept every ride.
Yeah.
It always sends me to Inglewood and Brownsville, which for people who don't know, that's the worst neighborhood in Chicago. It's where the Shy is taped. So, and I picked up a crackhead woman straight out of jail and I had to drive her she was trying to scream at the police station to get her car out of the impound. And I had it was making me laugh my ass off because I just got one of those cameras installed, the dash and back cam.
Yeah.
And because it's inside, it records the conversation inside. And I was getting mad because I kind of have I'm a changed man, but I did kind of have a criminal past. I'm like, bitch, your fucking story is not adding up. First, she's like, it's my mom's car. She passed it on. It's sentimental. And she's like, it's a brand new car. I'm like, you can't say those things. It's not.
Well, her mom could have bought a brand new car and then died and passed it on.
But then what made me almost burst out laughing, which I was like, she's going to bite me or something if I laugh, was when she started screaming that she got sexually harassed, which is not funny, but then she started that was the first time she tried to small talk with me. It's like, man, oh, you think that's fucked up? I'm like, I don't know how to small talk about getting sexually harassed. So I'm like, yeah, what happened? Maybe I shouldn't have asked to go into detail, but I'm like, yeah, what happened? And she goes, it's like, he asked me what my favorite food is. I'm like, well, I guess I sexually harassed my whole family because I don't know if that's sexual, asking what a favorite food. I almost wanted to just to fuck with her, but so what is your favorite food? But it was weird. But anyways, so that's that. I guess that's the only thing new. I drove up to Wisconsin with Chris Bongat and Kyle Allen to check out that the new mic that's in Janesville.
Oh, the Comedy Cabin?
I think so, yeah.
I was in Janesville on Thursday to do a show for Nathan Clemens, who owns the Comedy Cabin, but not at the Comedy Cabin.
Ah, okay.
He runs a show at a bar called The Looking Glass. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, nice. Was it, good place? You like it?
It was all right. It was good.
What's is it comparable to any other mic, as far as the layout and?
No, it's just a bar show. So,
okay.
Yeah, it was very nice. He let me do 45 minutes to kind of get ready for the recording.
Nice.
So
nice.
Yeah, but it's just kind of like a loud.
I definitely want to go in detail about that, but I'm gonna do a slow burn.
Yeah, we can do that.
But yeah, I think the Comedy Cabin, it looks like it's in it's almost looks like a modern barn.
Yeah.
And
no, it's nice. I like Nathan. He's a very good guy. Mm-hmm. You should go support the Comedy Cabin if you're in Wisconsin.
Dude, I felt so bad because I'm still a noob. So I'm just sitting in the back seat listening to Kyle and Chris, these seasoned comics, talk about all the drama in the scene, whatever, and I'm like, yeah, fuck that guy. Like, I don't know who the fuck they're talking about, and I just
it's funny to me that you call them seasoned comics, because I remember when both of them started.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm literally gonna hit a year at March.
Wow.
So that's what I
am going to be 13 in May.
Oh, shit. Well, I mean, it makes sense because, I mean, every time I see you do comedy, it's like, I think we were talking about it before, where to me it's like jerk off practice. Like, it's your tired day. You're not going to go as hard, in my view, for me, and 10% of it hits. But every time I've seen you do any open mic, like, the least amount of laughs you get is the most that I do. So,
well, thank you. No, see, and I think that's where I mean, it just comes from like a lot of practice. Mm-hmm. I've done thousands of comedy shows. I've gone up thousands of times. Yeah. And really, like with open mics, I'm there to work on one thing. I will always have one goal that I'm going to. So like, even if like I don't want to, like I feel like if you don't have a plan and you don't really want to be there, then you should go home, because you're just wasting everybody's time. It really irritates me, like, when you see someone at an open mic, when you have like 4 minutes and they're like, what should I talk about next? Like, no, you need to fucking know before you get there. And that's where it comes down to, like, you go in with a goal, like you're going to do your job and you're going to practice. And so make sure that you just like know what it is, even if it's like something as simple like you're doing, the same jokes that you've been working on, but you're like, you want to try them in a different order. It's like, good. Now you have something that you're like working towards, and you're like, have a reason for being there. Mm-hmm. And so it's you go in with like a plan and a purpose, and you'll get so much more out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm guessing I'm the guy that would irritate you sometimes because I guess sometimes what I guess I'll come in with a premise where it's just a fucking story, and then I'll see where people laughed, and I'm like, okay, so this is the area to riff on.
Yeah.
To like pepper it up. Which I don't know if that's probably a normal thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that everybody has like their own way of writing. Like, I definitely like to write on stage. Like, I find jokes come from like just while I'm talking. Like you said, like I'll have a story and I'll kind of start talking about it and find the jokes, but then it's just so much editing.
Yeah.
That's where it comes down to. Like, I'm at the point where like when I'm, writing, it's like my goal is that I'm either only saying punchlines, or if there's anything else, it has to be absolutely necessary to get to the next punchline.
Yeah.
If there's any other words, they're useless. Like, any words that aren't a punchline or necessary to understand the next punchline, they need to go, because it's just wasting people's time.
I wish I could not sleep uber more and pay you to teach me about punchlines, because it's a natural process.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, you learn, and you can't. You can learn how to like get laughs out of comedy just by like watching it and seeing other people, and you can tell that there's like tricks and there's like a formula and there's like a cadence that you can use to just kind of get laughs. But like, to really get good at it, the only way to do it is just to go up as many times as possible and keep failing to the point where you're not afraid of failing anymore, because that's when you can do like really good things. Once you like don't care what the audience does, that's when like you're like free to like do, it's like with all art. That's when you're like free to do what you really want and to like push yourself to be your best. But you just have to like get over that fear. Of not getting the response that you want.
That's kind of those, when I say like I might be the guy that irritates you, sometimes I just go and I'm like, I know that this is not, I guess it's a little bit, there's a goal, but it's not prepared. But what I'm going to learn today is I know I'm going to have no expectation, possibly bomb, but I might learn something makes people laugh. Because I guess what I learned about myself is there's just shit that I say hanging out with friends, they're laughing their ass off. And to me, it's just like, well, that's just normal to me because I'm fucking bizarre, you know? And there's moments where where things make laughter, and I don't even leave room for laughter because I'm like, I didn't even think that was funny. It's weird.
Yeah, and that's like when they talk about like finding your voice in comedy, that's when you're able to do that on stage.
Yeah.
And you're able to bring the audience in so much that it's like when you're just talking with your friends.
Yeah.
And that just takes like years and years and years.
Yeah.
To get there.
There's a way to say it to make it a diamond rather than just shooting the shit with your friends.
Yeah, and that's like, and people, you talk, like you said, you need help with punchlines. Punchlines aren't the secret to comedy. The secret to comedy is the setups. Because how you have to get the audience on board with what you're thinking in as few words as possible. That's the magic of comedy, is how you can get like these crazy ideas that you want to talk about understood by a room full of people who all have different backgrounds. They live in different places. They have different money. They live in different races, different ethnicities, different genders, different things that they like. And you get everybody on board with your, weird thoughts that you're trying to think about.
Yeah.
But you also have to do that in 20 seconds before you can get to the punchline, or else they're not going to be on board. And that's like what's fun about it, is like how you can get all of those people together on your way of thinking.
Yeah. A lot of what personally, that's the other thing too, is I was like, there's a fucking crowd for everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of what makes me personally laugh is discomfort. Like when you talk about something that people don't really, they could relate to it, but they don't really want to talk about it. Like let's go into detail about why we hate priest pedophiles. Like I just had a bit about I was saying, like, I'm not handsome enough, and that's why it didn't happen to me. But it would have brought my self-esteem up. But that's just everybody has their own thing. But
I like to get personal. I want to know, like, if someone's talking about like their deepest, darkest fears, that's where great comedy comes from.
I 100% agree with you. That fucking drives me so nuts, because I'm not going to mention who, but I was just arguing with somebody about this, because they were like, dude, Phil, you just need to do more one-liners, and it doesn't even have to be real. I'm like, that's so fucking fake. You need to be personal. That's who you are. Why would you make up shit and then just take this algebraic equation for punchlines?
See, I think that it needs to be things don't need to be true. They need to be emotionally true. It needs to feel true because when you're on stage, you're not yourself. You're a caricature. You're a caricature of yourself. You're like portraying a role on stage.
Yeah.
You are Wild Phil and I am Jack Baker.
Yeah.
And like the people that know me off stage know a version of me.
Yeah.
And then there's like this heightened, version of me that's the comedian.
Yeah.
And so like, I was talking about this the other day. Like I have a joke that I tell that's about my wife for like a thing that happened. But it didn't happen to my wife. It happened to a girl that I was dating before I met my wife.
Okay.
But the joke wouldn't make sense if I told the story about this other girl. It'd be like, why are you telling this story about a girl that's not your wife?
Yeah.
So I just tell it about my wife, and she's like, yeah, I like that story because it makes me look really good.
Yeah.
So she doesn't care. But like, it feels real to the audience, and that's what's more important. Like, it comes from a real place. It's a real thing that happened.
Yeah.
And the situation was real, but I changed the details and things because it needs to fit in with like the act that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I've found myself switching things out like that, probably only just to not offend people who wouldn't want me telling that joke. But yeah, I just, like when I got into this, when I tried doing it like 5 years ago.
Why did you stop?
I stopped because I can mention it again. This is because it's fucking hilarious. Actually, when I got back into it because me telling about why I bombed got the most laughs that I've ever gotten, which is so I used to have this, so I had this best friend who's blind. I don't think you ever know, his name's Bill Schmidt.
Okay.
He's it's not Adriel.
And there's another comedian who's
that's blind. Yeah. But Bill,
I had to host an open mic that he was at.
Yeah.
And I went to light him, and I was like, well, this is a waste of time.
I know exactly what you mean.
I felt so stupid. Like, I held up the phone, and I was like, this is not going to do anything here. And he just got off on time. I don't know how he timed himself or something, but
I've had
it was
so
very
many
impressive.
I've had so many moments like where I'm just like with my old friend where I'm like, so dude, you ever see this new movie? Oh, never mind. Did you ever experience this new movie? But yeah, we had a falling out or whatever. But he was a very sort of like one-liner, like Dylan Mahler, Mitch Hedberg, like that type of comedian, which was absolutely not what I would even try to do or what makes me laugh. And what happened is the first 3 times I did it, we did it in front of an audience of his friends.
Yeah.
So they knew who I was. And honestly, all I did was rant and do impressions of my Polish mom. She drove me nuts. We did not have a good relationship. And I did well. But then we went to Gallery Cabaret, which for a lot of people know, I know it's a really kind of woke bar. You can't really get edgy. Like, it's not even about getting edgy. I think they prefer jokes about politics. And to me, just politics is just, there's no humor in it, in my opinion. And so here's what's hilarious is, my buddy Bill, he's like, listen, you're going to fucking go home and just, it could still be your experience, but just write 3 solid one-liners. Anything about you. And I just, me and my wife, we've been married for 4 or 5 years. I don't think even she remembers. We have a similar personality. But I had just recently become a stepdad. So I'm like, I'm just going to bitch about my kid. And I wrote 3 pretty solid one-liners for like first time like trying to get my shit together. I was like, being a stepdad has its ups and downs, but I like to be half glass full. I mean, think about it. First of all, he's living up to his expectation. He was an accident. Second of all, like the other day I took him to a soccer game and there's a guy, he was sucking. So there's a guy screaming, yeah, like father, like son. And he looks at me and I'm like, I know, I'm the stepdad. You're telling me. And then the biggest pop, like the harshest was, I like my son, but he's emo. But you got half glass full. You know what's the best part of having an emo kid? If you take him to the zoo and he falls in the gorilla cage, he'll shoot himself before you have to shoot a gorilla. And that was like my pop. I was so fucking nervous when I went to Gallery Cabaret. My friend's like, so did you write one-liners? I'm like, yeah, I did. He's just chilling in the back. He's blind, so he can't really like tell the reaction of people other than by sound. And I go up there and I'm literally... It reminds me of like I didn't notice this until I became like a regular open mic. You ever notice how like nervous Kyle Kinane is? He's always like shaking his mic, and that you could hear the mic hitting my lips.
Were you at the vault when he was there?
No, I wasn't.
Oh yeah, he went to the open mic.
I fucking
before Christmas.
I wish.
He was just there. He just hung out. He was super cool.
That's awesome.
He watched everybody. He went up at the end, like after everyone had gone up, but he was cool. He did like 10 minutes at the end, and it was awesome.
That is awesome.
But it was so cool. Like, he didn't like bump anybody. He let everybody go up, and that was really cool.
Yeah, it is. I like his style. Like, I didn't hear about him until, I would say he's my favorite, like, Chicago, like, made it comedian, Like I tell people, I'm like, I had no idea Andrew Santino was from Chicago.
Yeah,
because I'm not really big about him. I don't.
Yeah, I love Kinane. I think I went to my wife and another comedian, Matt Drufke, and his wife went to the taping he did at the Metro.
Oh, nice.
Which was a lot of fun. I think it was called Loose in Chicago.
Do you know who opened up for him by any chance?
Shane Torres.
Okay, I have a friend. I consider him a friend. I don't think he likes me. There's a comedian named Winslow Dumaine.
Yeah.
He's kind of a metalhead, and he's got kind of like that hipster metalhead like niche comedy. I don't know how to describe it. He's probably gonna hate me even more trying to describe it because I think he's real particular about his. But he opened up for Kinane a bunch of times. He's from Omaha, and yeah, I mean that's why I was asking. But anyways, so I go on stage, nervous as fuck. And instead of doing any of these one-liners, I go, hey, what's the best part about being a stepdad? Your kid's probably going to kill himself. because I was so nervous. I had zero time to get, and then I get off stage. My blind friend's like, he's like, dude, if I could see you, I would fucking hit you right now. What the fuck was that? You could hear the discomfort in the room. Like, and after that, I was like, I'm never doing this again. I had such a panic. This happens to me a lot where my watch goes off because it says relax reminder. Do you need to call emergency? Like your blood pressure's so high. I haven't had it in probably 5 months because, and the funny thing is, like 5 months ago is when I started going 5 mics a week. I used to do only 2 mics a week, but I've gotten used to the stage. And
what was it? What did you do that made you like get used to get not nervous about going on stage?
To be perfectly honest, like
just older.
Joe's made me really comfortable because I tell it. I don't know if you know this, but my wife Kelly and her circle of friends were best friends with Chris Bonghat.
Okay,
and they would party. They were more friends with his brother Matt, I think, and we used to party at. I actually one of my first dates with my wife was at Chris's house, and I just remember going to. I would follow these people around that I met early on. Like when I started 5 years ago, there was like a lineup of 20 people, and I still kind of like followed like the few people that I liked, which was like Cameron Little at the top, also at the top Rena Calm and John Torres.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris was one of the people that I followed around because I knew him a little bit more personally, and him and TJ were just really They're like, dude, just fucking go up there.
Yeah, they're good people.
And I'm not gonna say who, but they were like, dude, wait till you see this next guy of like the regulars at Joe's, and that brought me confidence. You know, I'm sure you can.
It helps when you can like find a place where you feel comfortable.
Yeah,
it certainly makes it easier. I mean, there's definitely a lot of places like. The Comedy Vault is one. The old Comedy Shrine, like the one, this would have been like 5 years ago when you started. The one outside the mall, not when they moved into the mall. Like I hosted there every weekend for like.
Have you gone to the
years.
bit?
I have. I mean, I was there. They started doing stand up like a year ago. And they kind of stopped really quickly, but they did a couple open mics and a showcase, and I did those. So
because that's
there.
the old location, right?
Yeah. So I mean, that place I'm like super comfortable because I've been on stage there like 500 times.
Yeah.
So there's just like a lot of places where like that where it's fun because you feel like you get like an extra set of confidence.
Yeah.
Like because you're like, oh, I know this room, I could do this room, no problem, and that allows you to like try different things and like, push yourself. But then there's some rooms where it's like I never feel comfortable. Like Zany's Old Town, I don't ever feel comfortable there. And I think it's because the stage is so high. I don't like a high stage. I like to be down with the people. Like I don't like their stage is so high, like the people are like seated and they're like at eye level with your feet.
Yeah.
Have you been there?
I think I might have. I was gonna say
it's just like it's like a shoebox.
So there's 2 Zanies in Chicago.
Yeah, there's one in Chicago and there's one in Rosemont.
I thought there was 2 in Chicago and 1 in Rosemont.
No, there's one in Chicago in Old Town.
Oh, I thought there was 2 Zanies in. Okay, never mind. I'm probably thinking of something else. But yeah, I know what you mean about. I've definitely been in the Zanies in Chicago.
I don't like it. I feel uncomfortable there. It's weird that they're so low and like looking up at you. It's not.
It is a little. Yeah,
I don't like it at all.
The comedians that I've seen, they're just like screaming down. You know,
it's not how I want to be. I want people. I think CG's is my favorite setup, the one in Bolingbrook, because you're literally like the stage is like a foot high.
You like the Zanies at Rosemont?
Yeah, Rosemont's great. Rosemont is like a beautifully set up room.
I just saw Steph Tolev there
a
few weeks. I love her. She's fucking hilarious. And the crazy thing is like because I'm still like kind of getting to know everyone in the scene. I was like, oh, DJ Ripsky's opening up.
Yeah,
I could have known you, but I haven't gone to enough like mics that he's at. But he's kind of like in your spot. Like he's got his shit going. Like
he's doing really good.
Just, like it's like a full-time job for you basically, right?
No.
No,
full-time job.
Well,
I do not. You don't make as much money in comedy as you'd think.
Okay. I Yeah,
I'm sorry to break that to you.
No, it's I'm like smiling because I was just talking about this the other day, how funny it is that when you're a trauma speaker, you get because it's what is it called, like voluntary, you're doing it obviously for good intention to help other people, but they have they call them stipends or dividends where you actually get paid, and I'm like, it's fucking hilarious because I'm going to be getting paid more to talk less.
Sure. You're gonna get paid a lot more,
and you don't you don't even have to prepare for it. Just like, so this happened to me. That's fucked up. See you later.
I like didn't realize that this had like controls.
Oh yeah,
to mess with it. Yeah. That really freaked me out, and now I keep touching it, and it keeps messing. It keeps moving on me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's the back of the head one, and then there's if you wanna.
No, I don't really want to get that comfortable, but.
No, it's cool. Yeah, it's funny.
I keep forgetting that there's like a touch sensor there.
Yeah, there's you can light up your water bottle.
It's very fancy. Our couch at home doesn't move or do anything. It's just a couch.
Bro, here's the fucking crazy thing. My co-host, we just have these random weird fucking moments. Like, so I had an old podcast with my friend who was blind. The first time I asked my co-host, I'm like, dude, he's like, so what happened to your old podcast? I'm like, well, if I had a falling out with my friend, blah, blah, blah. And I haven't seen him in like 4 years. The moment I step out of my car, he's there. The dude that I had. And then like, I'm like pitching to my friend about how, to my co-host, I'm like, I want to start roasting celebrities who deserve to get roasted, but they never really had a roast. And he's like, who do you think? I'm like, Billy Corgan. As soon as I say that, Smash Pumpkins came on the fucking radio. And so what happened is, I was talking to my co-host. He's like, so how do you want to set up this new podcast? I'm like, well, I'm thinking about doing it on couches. And I saw this thing on the edge of a fucking road.
It definitely feels like a couch that you just found.
Yeah.
Which is the best. Yeah. Like, free couches are the best couches. Our couch was free. It was like the person who lived in our house that we bought it from. They just left the couch there.
I was traumatized, though, literally traumatized, because I lived in a condo that I almost paid off. And then, like, when I was like $2,000 away from owning it, it got the whole building got infested with bed bugs. And it was like a bed bug season. I have a friend he's the president of Palatine Library. Like, bed bugs go after blood. So there's no blood in a library, and they had to fumigate the whole place. So when I picked this up, I was like talking to the owners. I'm like, you're throwing this out. What's the catch? And literally she said that she's allergic to pleather, and they told him that it was leather. So that's literally the only thing that's wrong. So I'm like, fuck, that's awesome. Because I just bought that couch upstairs. And I'm like,
couches are so expensive.
Yeah, I could not. I'm like, I don't even know if I want to have a bed. I want to sleep. I want to get my money's worth.
Couches it's insane how much furniture costs.
Yeah,
and it's also cheaply made too.
Yeah, like I could understand if it's like by the Amish, or something. Yeah. But I forgot where I was going. Oh, so I wanted to go start off like Jack. I've seen you at open mics several times. I love being in the position of, I don't really know that much deep about you. Like, let's get into it. Like, so where were you, like, born, raised? Like,
I grew up in Warrenville, Illinois.
Okay.
So probably like 25 minutes from here.
Okay.
Do you know where Warrenville is?
I've heard the name.
Wheaton, Naperville.
Okay, yeah.
It's right between them.
Okay. So like a little bit
88 and 59.
Is it a little bit north of Naperville? Right.
It would be, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I used to another reason why I don't want to work for the fucking union. I bitched about this so many times, but I was not aware that being in a union, you have to go where the work is. So my first job, I had to wake up every day at like 3 a.m. because it started at 5 in Plainfield, like from here.
Yeah, that's pretty far.
Yeah. It was just straight shot down, what is it, like Sutton? Is that?
Yeah, Sutton would turn into 59.
Yeah.
And I lived right off Route 59 for like the first 24 years of my life. So.
Okay. And like what I would say, did you have, like most comedians have, like, I had a broken home or whatever? Like,
it was not great. My dad had like a really bad drinking problem,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was not super fun when you were a child. I mean,
Yeah.
it had its moments, like because he would just, I mean, he would just be like passed out on the couch, and we could ask him for anything, and he would say yes. So that was like awesome when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Because you would just get whatever you want.
Yeah.
But not like as an adult, you're like, oh, that wasn't good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that was like what was going on. It was not like a fun childhood. I think that's probably why I'm funny. I would like entertain my sisters.
Yeah. It was a coping mechanism.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely like comedy was always a way to like get attention, and also like I don't know, it was like a good way for me to like relate, connect with other people. I always felt like I've always been like older than everyone else.
Yeah.
I've always had like friends who were older than me, because it's hard for me to like, it was always hard to relate to people like my own age, just because like we had to be like adults very early on.
Yeah.
Like we,
I completely know
like
what you're
my
talking about. Yeah.
my parents were like never really there. They just like had to work. So like my parents got divorced when I think I was 9, and so most of the time it was like single mom, and she had to work. So like I did my own laundry since I was in first grade. My parents never packed a lunch for me. Like I always had to pack my own lunch for school, and so it was like weird, like trying to relate to like kids my own age.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I've always been. My friends have always been older than me, and then like a way to kind of like relate to them was like I would just make jokes about things, and so I was always really good like off the cuff, like in class. I would never like the class clown, but I feel like I've always been good just like riffing and commenting on like movies, or like if we're at like a speech or something, like commenting on things that they were saying and getting laughs that way. And that was always like a good way for me to like make friends and like get to know people, was just like kind of being funny.
Yeah. I'm guessing you probably were a latchkey kid, right?
What do you mean?
That's like it was like completely normal, but now it's like illegal, where like your parents weren't home, so you got the key to the house at a way young age.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, there was a lot of times like my older sister was. She's like a year and a half older than me, and she was just in charge pretty much all the time, which is not legal.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
DCFS would show up now if you tried to do that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It was just normal back then.
Yeah.
I mean, we were kind of just like on our own all the time. So.
Yeah, I remember like growing up in the city. I was just talking about with my co-host how like I often tell people like one of my favorite things to do is just breaking in abandoned houses and going wild. And he's like, I think that's everybody in the city, like the way we were raised.
Yeah, I wasn't like a big like troublemaker.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like, I never really got in trouble when I was a kid.
Yeah. I'm not even saying like to vandalize. I mean like just like, okay, we're playing like tag or jailbreak. Let's do it in this house. Because it just feels cool, like we could fucking, like you can't run around your own house or accidentally like go through drywall. So like let's do it at this fucking house. Yeah, it is. I know exactly what you mean about like you just the way I guess what I'm reading is like I kind of like developed this really early sense of like sarcasm. Because like you'd have these friends that you say that would be your age, where they're like bitching about stuff that is like, dude, you don't even know what I'm going through.
Right. Like it just like your problems aren't problems, and so I don't know how to like relate to you.
It just reminds me. I have to. You know what? I'm gonna quickly write this down. I'm sorry. I'm gonna take a quick because I'm gonna forget. Yeah, I'll edit that out. But what's funny about me? So like my mom, I had a real like, I call it immigrant mentality, which is like in my family, it was like there's always millions of ways to like whatever shitty situation you're in. There's millions of ways to get out of that, no matter how extreme. It's almost like I get emotional when I see that opening to fucking Scarface, when they're like, all these people, they had no hope. They came from this like poor country, but you got to do what you got to do, even if it's sell coke and kill people, you know? So to me, what's funny, I'm going to write a bit about this, what I was getting, because I didn't even realize this is really that funny. I thought it was just fucked up. So what's funny is my mom, she had horrendous trust issues. She owned I never even talked about this with anybody, I don't think. She owned a drapery business. So she did everything, upholstery, curtains, headboards. And she did make a lot of money doing that. She got ripped off a lot because she wasn't organized. But like she did one of Oprah's apartments. She did the biggest, I think, claim to fame where she directly like spoke with the person was, you know, Lori on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
She did one of her houses in Florida. But when we were starting out, basically what she did was she started out at a drapery business, and then you'd get sued now, but she just took all the customers off their list and brought them to her.
That's definitely illegal.
Yeah, and
theft.
What ended up happening is we had 20 fucking sewing machines in our basement going all the time. That's probably why I get relaxed by lawnmowers and helicopters.
Yeah, probably.
Because
it just feels like home.
I kept hearing that air compressor.
Yeah.
So we had a sweatshop. We had a fucking sweatshop. and the thing that, this is where I'm going to go with this bit, is like, the funny thing was, like, I had a friend tell me, he's like, well, at least I'm not a Polak with a fucking sweatshop. And I was like raised in such a racist, like, it was a neighborhood where all the mob in Chicago, it was a neighborhood where all the old mob guys went to. It was so white. It was all union guys, Irish, Polish, and Italian. And literally, I remember stories of like, oh, this house burnt down the block. And that was a regular thing. Why? Because somebody who isn't white moved in there, you know? And I just remember somebody telling me, because I was raised around that racism, they were like, yeah, you got a Polish-ass sweatshop. And I'm like, it's not a sweatshop. He's like, what do you mean? It is a sweat. I'm like, no, because they're not Asian and they're not sewing soccer balls, you know? But it was, yeah, that's the kind of stuff that is fuel for comedy, like the stuff you had to go through, you know?
I think yes and no. I think that what's hard about it is trying to find, like, especially like maybe more like where I'm at in comedy, trying to find the balance between like talking about the things I want to and making them in a way that audiences will enjoy them, because you have to think like, you know, audiences, they paid money for a ticket. They're buying the 2 drinks.
Yeah.
They maybe had to pay for a babysitter to take care of their kids. It's an expensive night out for them. And so they don't want to just like hear someone complain about, you know, their childhood.
Yeah.
And so like always like trying to find how, and that's like what I'm doing right now, is like I'm trying to write, you know, a bit about my childhood, but like I have to make it fun enough, because even it's like not, it's a serious topic. Like our babysitter was a felon one time. And like it's funny, and like comedians could be like, oh yeah, we'll just laugh at it, but someone who like paid $25 for a ticket.
Do you know what she did?
He armed robbery. He robbed a convenience store with a gun.
Oh yeah. God, that's so it's so much more funnier, because this is like, you know, before, I mean, I don't even know. Can you even run a background check on a babysitter now, you know?
I mean, you probably could. I mean, I would bet that there's some kind of like online service that you could use for like, that people can use when hiring employees, that would just like run like a basic criminal background check. But we knew that.
Yeah.
He was my mom's boyfriend. So like she knew
yeah.
that he was a felon when he got the job. But this is like where it's like how I'm trying to figure out how I can talk about that in a way that will still keep audiences on board when they're just like trying to have a fun night out.
Yeah, yeah.
And so like that's where it becomes like really hard, and like why you have to continue to like push yourself to like try those things. Otherwise then you just end up talking about like dating and like Tinder and like
yeah
the differences between men
Dick
and women,
jokes
right? And like trying to really like push people to get on board with what you want to talk about, but it's always like hard to do that and not lose them or make them sad because you don't want people to be sad in a comedy show.
I'm having trouble. So there's two things. It's like I have a real way further darkened humor. So to me, like when I just hear something fucked up, that's what actually makes me laugh. And I feel bad because I'll go to open mics and I feel like a dick not having like that a little bit forced laugh. Like I respect everyone who's there, the art of comedy, but it doesn't.
See, I don't.
Yeah, sometimes I feel obligated because I feel guilty. Like that didn't make me laugh. But what I'm trying to find is like how you said, like, is it coming across funny to the audience? And then the other thing, it's funny you mentioned because like one of my biggest influences is Big J Okerson, and what I noticed is like I'm gonna take a class next week. I know a lot of people look down on that, strictly having to do with crowd work, and I'm almost like before I even start, my goal is what can I do about crowd work that isn't going to be about fucking? I feel like every time people do crowd work, they're like, you guys a couple? You doing anal yet?
Yeah,
like,
no, I mean, I don't do crowd work anymore. I used to all the time. Like I would go and I would do sets where I would see how long I could go before having to tell an actual joke.
Yeah.
And I feel like audiences have gotten so much worse, like with crowd work. Like I think it's partly because so many people put up like the clips on like Instagram and TikTok, and now people like feel like they're supposed to participate. So I've gone like completely the other way, and it's like, you guys are going to shut up and I'm going to talk to you, and you're going to listen to what I have to say for 45 minutes, and I don't fucking care anything about you.
So when you mean they have gotten worse,
people talk so much more, and
yeah.
people heckle so much more than they used to, and I feel like they're emboldened now to like want it to be about them because that's kind of what
they want to be in that clip.
Yeah, that's what people see, and that's what they're seeing, on the Instagram reels, and I don't want to talk about you because I don't care.
Yeah. I get where you like,
but like there's skills that like you need to have because it's like that kind of stuff, and that class will like push you to like be more in the moment, which is good because even if you are telling written material, like that people want to believe that you're just telling those stories for the first time. Like when they're listening to a comedian, like they want to believe that you're just making this up all off the top of your head.
Yeah.
And so like some kind of class like that will help you, and even if just like doing that and that kind of practice will help you find ways to make your material more present too. So it's not like you're just reciting a script, so that it feels like more natural and you're just like having a conversation with the audience.
Yeah, I was just kind of debating with Kyle recently about like the whole class thing. I think classes are great if you already are pretty self-aware that you are funny and this will help you, because the shit that I took, I don't know if you know, like at the lodge, Lincoln Lodge, where Chris Higgins is the teacher, he's so fucking like I've seen him do comedy like 4 times and I do like him, but as a teacher, fucking you couldn't ask for a better teacher. Like he had a sub one day, I'm like, Christ, I would fucking want a refund if this person. But Chris did it, like I tell to everybody, it's like being an accountant that counts with your fingers when you're making material. Chris teaches you how to use a fucking calculator, because I just got so much, like I had all these premises that totally polished, you know, like it came from my biggest problem. I don't know if you can tell already, is I'm way too long-winded, you know, and
that's every comedian's problem. That's that's what it is, and it comes down to, like I said before,
podcasting is therapy. Right?
It literally comes down to writing every single word out, and then cutting out all the ones that aren't absolutely necessary.
Yeah,
but I mean, everybody's winded. Like everyone, like every joke is more words than it needs to be.
Yeah. It's plus I mentioned this too, that I think is funny, is like So the thing that got me really wanting to do comedy was my family was so like specifically my mom and my aunt, they were so emotionally abusive, like just making me feel like shit, that when I started watching those roasts with Jeff Ross, I would say he's the first person that wanted me to get into it. I was like,
really?
Wait a minute, you can say the most vulgar shit about someone and that'll ruin their month, you know, like one sentence. And so it was almost like a defense mechanism, but I'm like, you can make it funny. That's why, like, it's funny. I've talked to a lot of people, and there are a lot of people that we both know, they don't ever want to do a roast. But I'm like, I'll do it as much as, because I know that roast battle Chicago, they're always, I'm doing it next Thursday with Amy.
Oh, nice.
I just did it with Chris. And I think it went good. I think it went great for the, you know, one thing that I learned is don't read the fucking comments on YouTube. And it's funny how it is that way, because the Chris obviously won it. Has way more experience than me. But the reaction that I got from YouTube was completely different when I did like a best of my jokes on TikTok. I mean, my video of just me has more views than the actual video. So I was like, there's going to be haters everywhere.
Yeah, I love roasts because I'm a mean person inside.
Yeah,
I enjoy. I mean, I like a good roast. I didn't watch like the Comedy Central roasts and stuff like that, but I mean, I love doing them. I'm gonna do roast battle, I think, sometime coming up with Matt Drufke.
Oh,
so
nice.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
I did a roast battle once with Josh Chuboff. Do you know Josh?
Yeah, I love Josh.
He has cerebral palsy. He's a very funny comedian, and I made fun of him for his cerebral palsy because, like, him and I are friends, and so we agreed. We were like, anything, whatever you want to say is totally on the table. You could talk about my family, you could talk about my childhood, I don't care. And he was like, you could talk about cerebral palsy, and we did it, and it was so much fun. And like, but I feel like I don't want to roast someone who I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Because like if I don't want to like just like make surface level jokes about like your appearance, and that's when so many times when those people just like get paired up who you don't know, like I want to get in there and I want to like really like make jokes about, you know, each other, because that's where like the fun, and that's where like the sport, and like trying to really like, that's where like the fun writing exercise comes from.
Yeah, when they had that TJ's roast at Joe's, he kept telling me, he's like, dude, come on, you can do it. And I was like, it was so early. I'm like, I kind of know you and Chris, but then I'm just going to be shitting on 8 people that I don't know. And like, it's not even, I don't even know if I'm going to do good, and if that's a good, but I'm just going to see where, I know I'm going to do bad. I signed up for that bracket battle thing, where I am going to like try and climb I know I'm probably going to lose right away. And it almost feels stalky, because I know whoever I'm paired up with, I'm not going to know. So I just got to go do research on Facebook, you know. But that's cool. I mean, it is fun. It's what is it called? It's like a skill. Like we were talking about guitars. Some people know how to fucking do solos. Some people just know how to play rhythm. So it's kind of fun to...
It's a good writing exercise. I always like shows, like themed shows or something like that, where you have to write material specifically for them.
Yeah.
I feel like it's good because it forces you to do something outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't write short jokes like that. And so like for a roast, it's like really good practice to like be really like good with like the word count and like the punchiness, because that's not really like how I do my act. So
yeah, what was I gonna say? Oh, what's funny is like kind of how you I don't know why I always, because I had so much shit said to me growing up that so when I had my old podcast with my blind friend, I actually have a like actually mentally challenged friend who we're best friends. He's probably the longest friend I've had. We met at Jewel. We started at the same time, and the funny thing about him is like he so you know how like people who are autistic, they use one side of their brain more. So a lot of people, when they think autistic, they think Rain Man, where educationally they're like a genius, but then socially, like loud sounds set them off. And my friend is the opposite. So he's a huge drunk, super social, but he has like a 5th grade mind. And I've had so many funny situations. I used to bring him to like these punk rock parties and shit. I remember that one of the funniest moments was like, I brought him to this party, and there was this like real kind of like almost like Antifa progressive chick. And she's like, you just bring him around because you laugh at him, because you laugh, and that pisses me off. It'd be like somebody saying like, you bring Josh Chuboff to just laugh at him. It's like, no, we're fucking friends. And while she's yelling at me, my buddy comes up, and he's obliterated drunk. Like he used to drink in one night like 48 Budweisers, like 224 packs.
That's a lot.
And the funniest was when he had to go piss, he'd drop his pants like a 2nd grader to where his ass is showing. But anyways, so she's bitching me out, and he walks up, he's like, can I just say something? She's like, yeah, why don't you let him speak? And he just goes, I just gotta say, you've got the most beautiful tits. And it's fucking set her off even more. But anyways, so my old podcast, I had this, I told him, I go, listen, I've been asking to have a roast on my birthday 3 years in a row. Nobody wants to roast because they think they're going to hurt my feelings. Let's have a fucking roast on the podcast. And it was so funny to me because obviously my friend who's mentally challenged, he couldn't really come up with roast jokes. So he just said, he's like, you know what? You're a fucking asshole. He just said shit like that. Like that's the punchline. And then my friend who was blind, he didn't want to be mean. So he just kind of like whatever. And then it put me in an asshole position because I actually like wrote all these jokes. And the thing that made me laugh the most was how you were saying like Josh Chuboff was like, yeah, you could make fun of my disability. I thought making blind jokes would have set off my friend, but he got set off the joke that I didn't think would set him off the most. Because the funny thing, because he's blind, sometimes when he gets stressed out, his upper lip would like shake. And that's how I could tell that one got him mad. Like I said, stupid, like blind guy walks into a bar, give him an ice pack. Like, and that was like, whatever. But then the joke that set him off was, I was like, I said, I go, man, I always ask Bill, I go, do you think I'm being too offensive or edgy with my jokes? He goes, man, you got to do you. Look at how unique I am. I mean, I do me. And I'm like, yeah, this is coming from an Irish guy with a Celtic cross, proud to be Irish tattoo with a red beard who's an alcoholic. I hope I'm as unique as you one day. And that got him so pissed off. But yeah, I like her. But I forgot where we left. So you were saying that, you had a kind of bumpy road growing up. And then it's freaking you out again.
A little bit. I just forget that it's going to do it. And then I put my hand there and it's like, oh shit, the couch is moving.
That's funny. But so you were saying, so like you kind of became an early class clown. And
well, I was never a class clown. I would just make jokes, but not like, I would never disrupt class. I was a good student.
Okay.
Which you could probably guess by looking at me.
Yeah.
I look like I would have been a good student.
Yeah, I do get that vibe, I'll be honest. But I mean, I also had that similar thing, only through threats where I had to get good grades or whatever.
I was just smart. Like I didn't have to try in school. So school was always really easy for me. I was one of those kids. I
was that kid who I was like, everyone's calling me a dumb Polak my whole life because of the neighborhood I grew up in. I'm like, I will show you. And even when I was getting straight A's, I'm like, who's dumb Polak now? And they're like, yeah, you're still dumb. You're still dumb because they're just assholes. But I'm actually, it's funny, in like a few podcasts, I'm going to have like my childhood bully on the podcast. It's going to be funny because I want to share the fucking crazy shit that you can imagine in a Catholic school and all this crap.
That would be a lot.
But I was going to say, so what do you think was like, I don't want to say who you look up to now, but what comedian you think gave you that fire that you're like?
I can tell you. I was in 7th grade. I was watching the Comedy Central Presents countdown. They were doing like a countdown of the best Comedy Central Presents episodes.
Yeah.
And number 3 was Mitch Hedberg. And watching that half-hour comedy special changed my life.
That's awesome.
That was the moment when I said I want to be a stand-up comedian because I thought he was so funny and so out there, and just like the way that he thought about the world was so different.
Yeah.
And then I was like, that's what I want to do. So
yeah.
It was in 7th grade.
That's cool, man.
Mitch Hedberg. So
yeah,
I can tell you the exact, I mean, I remember watching it. Like I was upstairs in my mom's room watching on the TV, like sitting on her bed watching
that is an awesome thing to have that memory.
So that was it. I loved, like I would watch every comedy special before that. I always just loved comedy, but he was the first one that was like, no, that's what I need to do. So
you know what's crazy? I just heard on a podcast that the reason he he died from that infection from heroin, the reason why he got on it is because he was one of those people. They were talking about that crippling anxiety.
Oh yeah, he was so afraid. He wouldn't look at the stage. He would like look backwards. He was like sitting down at some points during that special.
Yeah.
And I think the story is that he like bombed, which doesn't come across in it at all.
But that's the reason why he moved on to heroin, was the panic, because it was like he started off with alcohol, but it was like the fame and the pressure. He's like, I got to move on to something stronger, which is kind of sad. I mean, like,
he's the best. I mean, I still love him. I still love his stuff. It was funny because I don't do comedy like Mitch Hedberg at all.
Yeah.
But I just love like the way that he thought about things, and the way that he like told jokes was so different and so original. That's like what I wanted to do.
It is cool. Yeah, I had a lot of people, like, as far as like quirky comedy, they've told me to like check out like Maria Bamford, which
she's great.
I like Mitch, but Maria, like, it's like one of those things where it doesn't make me laugh, but I'm like, that's really cool. It's a point of view that you would have never seen, you know? Do you think, like, so as far as like being where you're at today, 13 years later, obviously doing well, I mean, where do you think, like, has your influences changed along the years? Who do you look up to now?
I mean, I look up to, I think, it's a good question. I think that it's some comedy, and then I also take influence from things outside of comedy. Yeah. I think my favorite comedian is Rory Scovel. Do you know Rory Scovel?
The name Scovel sounds familiar, but no, I don't.
I mean, he, the thing that I like about him is that he's willing to take a joke to the absolute, like, limit of absurdity. Like, he talks about how, like, he's telling jokes. Like, sometimes you get so far out there on a topic, and, like, you're riffing, and you're like, because he does a lot of, like, riffing and improv.
Yeah.
And he did a whole tour he didn't write any material. He just went up and improvised for an hour. It was fucking unbelievable. He did, like, a improvised special on YouTube. That's awesome. But he'll go out there and he'll go so far out the premise that only like one person still even understands what he's talking about. And he's like, I do comedy for that person. And so I love that part of it, like being willing to like take a joke like as far to the limit as you can possibly go. Yeah. And that's kind of like, that's like something that I, try and do. I mean, we do comedy very differently because he's much like sillier, and I kind of like, I try and do that, but like more in the context of like things from my own life. But I try and like take it like all the way to the like the limit and get like every single like joke or laugh out of that premise that you can, and that's something that I really like look up to, and I think the way that he's able to do that is really impressive.
Yeah, that's awesome. With this, what we're talking about now immediately makes me think of Harlan Williams.
Yeah, he's great. I've been told that I look like Harlan Williams. People when I was in college, I was in like a sketch writing group, and they always said that I looked like Harlan Williams, and I don't understand. Like, I don't see it at all.
Maybe it's just like you have a very, I don't know what the word is. Like, it's, I guess I would call it like an average Joe look, but how do I explain it? Like, you wouldn't expect you to be a comedian. Like, you'd be
no one does. Like when I like meet my wife's friends, they never believe that I'm a comedian.
Yeah, but I do think that. What I will say, I think you look better than Harlan Williams because
thank you.
Because I think part of, if he didn't have his silly look and he's got such a unique voice that if he didn't have those things, like if somebody else, if I said his jokes, people would be like, this guy's insane, you know? Have you ever seen his weird fucking special?
He did it for No People, right?
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I know that he did one for, I've heard of the idea.
Do you know what it is, though?
No.
And you don't know anything? I had to fucking... It's probably the only special I paid for because I heard how ridiculous it is. I'll be honest, it's pretty horrible. But it's funny in a horrible way. He did it in the middle of a fucking desert. And he's just... like, he'll say his jokes, but then he just riffs on random shit he sees. So there's like a fucking tortoise crawling across the screen.
That's funny.
And he's just like, what are you, Mr. Tortoise? You think you're going to get anywhere in life with that speed? Like, it's so weird. And it's just him screaming in the middle of a desert.
See, but that's one of those things that's probably like funnier as an idea than it is to actually like watch.
Yeah. I respect it because... especially through music, I've had so much like humiliation where I'm just like, nothing is a bad idea. I'm just gonna fucking try it, and that's why I respected him. Like I liked that he did what he did because it's like nobody else fucking did it. Like,
well, yeah, I love what was the guy, John Cage, who did the like 4 minutes and 36 seconds or whatever. It was like his composition. He was a musician. And he just sat there at the piano and let it be silent for that amount of time. I think that's genius as an idea, but if I had paid to see him perform, I would have been kind of pissed.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But like as an idea, it's brilliant, and I think it's hilarious that he just sat there, and that was the music, was just all the noise that was just from whatever was going on, people being like confused.
Yeah.
But
it's also one of those things that like you can only do that thing once, you know?
Yeah.
Like that guy did you see that guy who covered Tequila on like American Idol?
Yeah.
It's like similar to
Tequila. That was funny. That was like a karaoke video that he did and put on like Twitter or something.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah. So for you, it started off with Mitch Hedberg, and then like, is there like you said Rory Scovel now? Is there anybody else?
And I mean there's a lot of like comedians that I like. I try and watch a lot of comedy. I really like Nate Bargatze. I like the way that he's able to tell stories. I think that he's really good at storytelling. I like Mike Birbiglia a lot. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same thing. He does kind of like big, long pieces, which I really like. I think Mulaney is just the best like pure stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
Just like standing on stage telling jokes. I don't think there's anyone that's better at it than he is.
Yeah.
I definitely like all them, but then also too, you know, I like to think about like the performance side from like things that aren't comedy. Like my favorite band is Fish.
Yeah.
Which we talked about before.
Yeah.
And what they do is like every show is like its own unique experience, and like so they'll play like different songs at every show. Like you could go see them 4 times in a row and they won't play one song, you know, at repeats at the show, but they like think about each show as its unique experience, and like because you know, when you're like there at that time with that group of people, that situation can never be recreated.
Yeah.
And so it's special.
Yeah.
And it's its own thing. And so like what happens at that show is going to be different than what happens at the next show. And so like I really like to keep that in mind, like how I can make like each show needs to be special in its own way. And so like that's why it can help, like what we talked about, like with being present and in the moment. Like if something happens in the show, you need to bring that into your act, you know. Like if there's like if someone drops a tray, like one of the servers drops a tray, we all saw that happen. Like it would be weird if you didn't comment on it.
Yeah.
Because it takes the audience out of like, they're like, oh, now we're just watching him do a prepared thing, not like we're experiencing this moment all together. I really like the way that they do that and bring the audience into the show. And so I try and do that, but just not with letting them talk.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I'm glad you've told me this because I could never get into fish.
That's all right. It's not for everybody.
It's I actually watch this podcast where they just riffed about there's this clip where they're doing the meat man dance. You know what I'm talking about?
The meat stick.
The meat stick. But it just reminded me of part of what I have to work on. I get such panic-induced ADHD. And dude, it's not about, I've had people tell me, well, maybe you don't have the confidence. I do have the confidence. It's just that, especially because I started at Joe's, I think Joe's it's so funny because Joe's has this culture where oftentimes they just, the person that goes up next has to have like one little roast about the person before. And so it kind of like groomed me in my head to like, the first thing you say, make it a little bit relevant to what just happened so that you're a little bit in, like you said, present, you know?
Sometimes I think that, it's, I think that can definitely help. It can also be like a crutch too. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it's also fun to go the opposite way and to go completely different than what they did.
Yeah, it throws me off. Like, I'll be sitting there and it's like, I'm whatever. I always do like number 5. I'm like, I'll go number 5 on the list. And it throws me off because like I'll show up, like you said, with a plan, with like what I want to do. But then it's like, oh, somebody mentioned whatever, a joke about fucking the fish meat stick, whatever. And I'm like, I feel obligated that I have to like mention it. And then it throws me off course. But it's a work in progress. But yeah, like I would say, like as far as for me, that's why the biggest advice that I know that I need to stick with is don't take advice. Is only because in the sense of like you follow the laughs, but also at the same time, what I noticed is, like the person who really influenced me to be where I'm at, that show, like when you asked like, can you, like, why did you stop 5 years ago? What got me back into it? So I was working at a logistics place with that guy who opened for Kinane, Winslow.
Oh yeah.
And also who worked there. I didn't know he was a stand-up when I was there. I was like, man, this guy's really goofy. He should be a stand-up. Was Adam Quaslow.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He worked at the same place, and so I would just rant about my life during lunch, just fucking bitch. Like that was my outlet. And somebody's like, dude, I never heard a podcast. He's like, you have to listen to Joe Rogan. I'm like, fucking Joe, why? He's some fucking jock that was on Fear Factor. I don't know. Well, like, why do I need to listen to him? He's like, because there's this guy, Joey Diaz. You're the fucking Joey Diaz of Chicago. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, I'm already getting defensive like Joey Diaz. He's like, because you're like, you got like this criminal past and like these bizarre stories. And so that's where I think I strayed off the regular one like punchline path. Is I was like, I became too reliant on just saying these stories that I'm supposed to compress into 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of starting to polish where I'm realizing you could still tell a story and pepper it with one-liners.
That's what you're supposed to do.
And like doing it.
Yeah. And so like, and that's where like with a story, like I don't think about it like telling a story. I think about it like having a series of short jokes that go in a linear pattern. It's it's not like you can't. I don't think you can think about it as telling a story. Like it has to be jokes that have a linear arc to them, because like with a story, like you need the audience to really care about you, because like they need to be invested in it. Like when you tell a story to your friends, they care about the outcome because they like you as a person.
Yeah.
But those people don't know you. And so like you're like a story, you're like, okay, where is this going? Where are the punchlines? And that's where it comes into like, No, it's easier, I think. That's how I've at least always found that it helps to think about it as jokes in a linear pattern. So it's not a story. It's like I have this joke, and then that leads into this joke, and that leads into this joke. And I think also, too, when you think about it like that, it helps you find all of the different punchlines.
Yeah.
Because,
I was just double checking that it's still...
Oh, yeah. Because, like, each... like when you're telling a story, like each line should be like either like getting like a little laugh or like a big laugh. And so like you really need to like get in there and like mine each part of the story for as much comedy as possible. Because then, even if like someone doesn't like one joke, it's like, well, there's another one coming, 20 seconds later.
Yeah, yeah.
And that helps like... And that helps to like build momentum towards, the end of the story when you're like trying to build to like the big funny part that you've gotten their buy-in and there's laughs at like all these little jokes leading up to it. So that kind of just like helps the whole thing grow.
Yeah. Yeah. I recently what I've been trying to work on is the first thing that I was working on that drove me nuts. Part of the reason why I like those classes is because they have like this cheesy little grad show, but it's actually awesome because you have I'm not exaggerating. I went from doing these 10-person audience Joes places to full room because everybody brought their fucking family. It was literally over capacity. The capacity is 150. My brother was standing on the side of the stage because he couldn't fucking sit anywhere.
Yeah, comedy's awesome when the room's full.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like they tape it, so it was an awesome clip. But I forgot where the hell I was going with this. But yeah, I don't know where the fuck I completely lost
something
track.
About the class, how it was helpful.
Oh, well, like the clip. What I was trying to work on that bothered. It's only something that you yourself would notice, but nobody in the audience noticed. So the funny thing was, because I ramble so much, I was like, all right, so I have 6 minutes on stage. So especially my first clip, I gave 0 moments to laugh. And by fucking luck, by sheer weird luck, I did give moments. And the only reason why was because I'd look down at my notes. But the funny thing was people thought I was like, just like, because I'd look down and I'd raise my eyebrows and they thought it was like me being sarcastic. I was like, well, that worked out well. But so what I've been working on is kind of like the memorization. But what I think maybe I'm going ahead of myself is how you were saying you need to have like these sort of like these bullet points in a story where they're, I guess the way I'm imagining it is like, imagine you're a frog. When you tell a story to your friends, you're swimming across the pond. But when you're telling a joke, all these pods are punchlines. So you got to hop from pod to pod.
I would have never went to frogs in the metaphor. But it makes sense. Like, I mean, it's not like you can't just like tell a story. Because then inevitably the punchline is like, oh, I guess you had to be there. Like it needs to be jokes.
But like what I noticed is it's helping me build the skill of improvised riffing because I'm like, I know what joke goes here or what punchline there is. But the more that I tell it, because I'm so bored, like it's kind of scripted, each time I sort of like either vulgarly describe it more or add just a little bit more extra, seasoning on it. It happened to me recently. It's the weirdest fucking thing. Maybe this is trauma induced, but it's like I noticed even Chris Higgins told me this. He's like, dude, every time you were in class, you're like, so I'll say something about that later, but he was like, every time you're in class, you kind of had these like okay joke, but the moment you went on stage, fucking gold. Why are you doing this? Because I felt like I'm under pressure. Like I
mean, the pressure helps.
Like I'm speaking to the king and he's about to execute me. and the funny thing was that I was saying on the side about the class was this is so fucking crazy because of the people that I look up to that are so offensive. I'm not joking. Like 60% of the reason why I took the classes was I was like, obviously, number one was that clip. Number two was the polishing. Number three was I'm like, if these offensive, fucked up jokes pass through the filter of the Lincoln Lodge, like kind of like wokeness, then they're okay. And so every class, I just bring the worst shit possible. Like I think I almost like one of the pops I had, I said retard, and he's like, no, don't ever fucking use that word. So I'm like, okay, I have no problem. I'm not one of these stupid storm the Capitol like freedom of speech. I'm like, no, the equation is laughs. So if it doesn't add laughs, like,
yeah, I mean, you should never say a word or talk about something that's going to automatically alienate people from your crowd. Like every joke there's like a risk reward.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're going to take a risk and you're going to talk about something that could lose half the room just based on the thing that you said, the reward has to be really good, and it has to be a really good fucking joke, or else it's not worth doing.
Yeah. It's I was going to ask, so when do you think you're at 13 years. When do you think, like, you started, so where did you, actually, I'm sorry. I'm so fucking nicotined up right now. I was going to say one real thing before I forget, because this is hilarious. Like, it just shows the relationship of that I'm being authentic when I say I'm wild. So when I drove up to Wisconsin, right, this is just so funny to me. The thing that happened was I got ADD again. I was like, I got to relate to this crowd. I thought we had 6 minutes. We had like almost 4. So a little bit, almost 3, right? And I went up there and I was getting so ADD. I'm like, I'm going to try new material. And I literally just went up there and talked about how I have a criminal past with no punchline. They're like, this is scary. It's not funny. But the thing that made me laugh was on the way back, my wife texted me and she's like, so how are you doing? I'm just checking, like, is everything okay? Because there's supposed to be a winter storm. And I wrote word for word, I go, I ate dog shit. I feel horrible. And she goes, why are you just willing to do anything to make a laugh? I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, why would you eat dog shit?
That's funny.
And I go, no, it's like a comedy saying. She's like, well, look who I'm fucking married to. I could see you doing that to be funny. But what I was gonna get to was where do you think, like, so first of all, like, where do you remember, like, your first mic, like where your start was?
My first show was actually not an open mic. There was a showcase called Comedy Under the Tap at the Tap House in Oswego, where they used to get 100 people every Tuesday night in the basement of the Tap House in Oswego, and that was the first place I ever went on stage.
And how do you think
awesome. I crushed my first time.
Fucking, that's awesome.
But it was 100 people in there, and so like it was very different. And I feel like when people go up the first time, they have like a weird nervous energy, and you're just like so excited that it usually goes pretty well. At least in my experience, that's what I've seen. And then like my second time was this like comedy contest at the Roundhouse in Aurora. Okay. And I was like, oh, this is going to be so easy. I just did this great show. I'm really good at this. And then I just bombed so hard.
Yeah. That's
I mean, I feel like that's usually how it goes, because if it doesn't go well your first time, there probably won't be a second time.
Mm-hmm. And it's like learning experience. Like I think I mentioned, like, I was like sick 2 weeks ago, and when my stomach gets thrown, I don't know what the fuck I had. I felt like I had that alien's face hugger swimming in my stomach, sore throat, fever, got 3 COVID tests, 2 strep tests, 2 flu tests. They're like, you just have like some weird upper respiratory thing that is none of the above. And when my gut gets thrown out of whack, I get fucking paranoid. I get mood swings. And so I just went around like this, just, what should I do? What am I doing wrong? Was my set good? Like begging for acceptance. And what ended up happening is, once again, I forgot where the fuck I was going with this. Christ. Oh, This is so stupid and awkward. Yeah, I forgot where the fuck I was going with this. What was the last thing?
I don't know. I can't really help you on this one.
What was the last thing you were saying about how if you do well the first time and I was saying that. So I had like these polished sort of sets that, like, I have 3 notebooks. I have like work in progress, ideas, and then like polished sets. So when I did those, like when I got that awesome reaction when I did it at the lodge, and I say awesome because there were people in my class who it was just, you could tell it was mercy laughs. So I was like teary-eyed that I'm like, here was my one night. Here was my, you don't get a lot of opportunities to get. I don't know when I'm going to get an opportunity to have a room full of 150 people, and I did as well, better than I thought I could. People walking up to me, "What's your Instagram? I never heard of you." And like, what I was saying is like it drove me nuts when I would do that, and I'm like, all right, well, that's like in the books. I don't have to do it. And then I'm like, I should work on it, and I would do it at like, whatever, Joe's or at the Bit Theater, and it does well. But then I did it at like that 8-bit open mic at Lincoln Lodge, literally crickets, literally fucking crickets, and you don't know the reason why, but it just happens. You just have to deal with it. Like it's just whatever the fuck, I mean, you can look it over, but whatever. It's so I have to ask, like, where do you think? How long did it take for you to feel like I think I'm ready to get booked, or were you saying you were doing shows right away? Because you said it wasn't an open mic.
No, it wasn't an open mic, but I probably shouldn't have been on the show because I'd never done stand up before.
Yeah.
So it was probably like I was in college. So when I started, I was at NIU in DeKalb, and there wasn't a lot of comedy stuff out there. So I was just kind of like doing open mics like over the summer and on Christmas break when I was home.
Yeah.
And then I would just go back to school. So then like once I graduated, I was working at the Comedy Shrine in Aurora. I was like running lights and sound and then all kinds of other things. And so I would like get spots there. And I eventually started running the open mic. And that's kind of when I started to get booked on shows, was just because like I was the guy running the Comedy Shrine open mic. And so everyone was always trying to get up there. It was a really good mic for a long time. We would get like an actual audience. So it would be like, it was a good way to like actually test out your material in front of people. So people always like wanted spots there. So I was like the guy people had to go through. So that kind of helped with getting booked. So it was probably like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that would have been when I was starting. I was probably like 2 years in when I was like starting to get booked a lot. But, before that, it was just kind of summer and Christmas break when I was home, when I was doing open mics. And
when you say 2 years, it was like sparsely spread apart.
Yeah. And then so that was once I graduated, that's when I like really started to like do comedy a lot.
Okay.
That would have been like 2012.
Did you ever like feel like you needed you wanted to take a class or read any books?
I took a class at the Improv just so that I could get seen by the booker there. Mm-hmm. I was like not at a point where I probably should have been taking the class.
Okay.
I was probably like past the class at that point, but I got seen by the booker, and so that's how I started working at the Improv.
Nice.
So
it seems like a very, like the story you hear a lot where you like Ari Shafir working the door at fucking whatever comedy store.
Oh, that working at a comedy club is the best place to learn about comedy.
Yeah.
Because you just see it all the time, and you get to see the comedians, and you understand like the running the show aspect. So not just the on stage part, but all the other stuff that goes into it. And like you can see like how different headliners handle the check drop, or how people will try and like win over a crowd that's tight, or like different ways that people will, like shut down hecklers. And like you just get to see so much of that you just learn. Like it's like it's like doing 100 open mics, going to work for like a weekend at a comedy club. You just learn so much.
Yeah.
It was by far the most valuable experience ever. And then the other part of it too is because like when they do have opportunities that come up open, who are they going to give it to? Well, it's the person who fucking like scrubs the toilets and like does all that shit. The guy who's like working really hard for them. That's who they're going to give the opportunities to. And so that kind of like opened it up to me, where that was like the first place I hosted. That was the first place I did guest spots. It was the first place I featured, the first place I headlined. So like all that stuff just came from being the guy who worked there.
Yeah. You know, when we were talking before, when you said, I just love watching comedy, like even when you were younger, you just loved watching comedy. It drives me fucking insane, because I know a few people that tell me, they're just like, yeah, I hate watching comedy. I'm like, well, why are you fucking doing this? You're just going on stage, you know, and jerking off and loving the attention of it then. Like, how could you ever stop watching? There's so many people where I've talked to, I'm like, you know, it's like, what was it? Like last August, I saw Mark Normand and I wanted to meet him afterwards, and we did. And it was awesome and I loved it. And I'm like, you know, looking at it like a blueprint. Like, how does this compare to his special, you know? And then like before that I saw Louis C.K. and now like in March I'm going to see Dan Soder. It's like I'm in this because I love the Top Guns, you know? And I can't stand, I'm like, people who are in it and they're just like, I don't watch like that high stuff anymore, you know? Like it's weird. Like the only other thing I would say that's funny is how you're saying like working at a comedy store is like the best. That was the one thing that worried me about kind of saying fuck you to being a welder, was I was like being around these like racist, redneck, piece of shit morons.
Yeah.
I'm going to lose that influence, like these bizarre moments.
Yeah, but like I think that's but like you can get that from anywhere, and that's why like I think it's bad when comedians will do comedy 7 nights a week. Like you need those experiences from the outside world to bring into the comedy, or else your comedy just becomes about comedy, and no one wants to watch that except other comedians.
Yeah, that's what there's a few people that I know who do that, where they're like I did 3 mics a day, 7 days a week, and when I just listening to them, dude, I can't even fucking keep up with you, because I know it's one thing after the other. Only like every third one is hitting, but it's like, dude, I can't.
You need to live a life that's worth talking about.
It's like going to the gym. You need fucking recovery, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like when I got sick 2 weeks ago, I took a whole like week off, and when I came back, I was like 20 times more excited on stage, you know? And but I was going to say, so like, as far as, do you have any stories like your worst mic ever, the funniest mic ever? What was, who do you think was like the most famous person that you looked up to, that you like opened for type?
The coolest person I've ever met through comedy is Bobcat Goldthwait.
Oh, nice. He was at Lodge for like 2 weeks, right?
He lives in like Winfield now.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
So his
I fucking walked past him like 4 times.
Yeah, he's so cool. I got to perform with him, and he's just like the coolest person I've ever met before.
Nice.
I got to perform with Andy Kindler, which was really cool.
Okay.
That was really fun. At the Improv one time, I was just like, he wasn't on the show, but I think it was like John Heffron was headlining, and I was like hosting, and I just came back in the green room, and then Billy Gardell was sitting there from like CBS's like Mike and Molly, and he was just like, "Hey, I'm Billy." It was like I see you on TV. It was just cool, like you know, it's just cool to just like get to meet like, you know, people who are like super successful from comedy is always really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
But I mean, Bobcat was like the coolest one by far.
Yeah, and there's no way you fucking won't recognize him.
No,
like, he's got that look down.
Yeah,
you know. I just remember like, so this is fucking. I've told it. I don't know if I told this, but this is real fucking, it's going to sound stalky as hell, but because of being in a band for 12 years, I sort of like, I always want to meet the people. I want to like talk to them and shit. So like it was my goal to every band that I ever see, every guy that I like performer, I want to fucking meet them afterwards. And I would always know, like from being a bit like, there's the exit, there's where they're going to come out. That's probably their tour bus. Or if they didn't have a tour bus, that's their fucking limo Escalade. And I do that shit at every single show. And like, that's how like I ran into Mark Norman.
Well, the comedians most of the time will meet and greet after the shows.
Yeah. The one person I was like, because this is who I looked up to as much as Joey Diaz, was I couldn't get a hold of Louis C.K.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
But most of the time, most of the time you can meet them after the shows.
It was so funny because it was right after his Louis C.K. It was like there was the controversy. He took off like 2 years, and then he had that leaked set where he was doing shit at like small places, and then he started to do theaters again, kind of like ease himself in. And we went to, it was the Coronado in Rockford.
Yeah.
And I told my wife, I'm like, we're meeting him. This is my number one. Okay. We're fucking meeting him. But then I'm like, we're in Rockford. So if any shady shit happens, I'm giving it 3 strikes. And if we left Rockford, dude, it was so fucking.
Man, I've performed in Rockford hundreds of times. I've always had a great time.
I just hear a lot about like, I don't know, like the last time I remember the last story I heard about Rockford was like there was this high school winning basketball team. So this like white chick from Rockford took her black teammate there. They went to this bar that's only has like white supremacist biker gangs, like actually SS Bolt biker gangs, and they just like beat the shit out of there. And I'm like, I'm not surprised. That's rock, But yeah, I don't know. But in my experience there, I did hit the 3 strikes because I was like, the first thing that happened, this homeless guy went up to me and he goes, "Yo, man, I'm just gonna be honest. I need $20." I'm like, $20 fucking dollars. Like I wanted to say something, but then I just started speaking Polish to get rid of it. So that's strike 1. Then like the second time, a cracked out white dude, his eyes were going in every direction, is asking me for directions to go somewhere. The whole time he's only keeping eye contact on my wife's purse. And then finally we stayed there a little. We were the only people there. Like the whole street cleared out. It looked like Walking Dead. It was just dead. And then I see what I thought was a car coming, and it was weird because it was like I just see these 2 lights. It was 2 guys with do-rags riding mountain bikes with lights on them, and next to them they're holding a mountain bike that they stole. But I mean, it's whatever. That's just my experience. I don't know, but yeah, I've always tried to make like I got to meet these fucking. One of the times that I met it was like the most awesome time to meet them was it was in Rockford again. I was at Coronado Theater. They had like a 90s tour. It was Tom Green, Harlan Williams, and Pauly Shore. Pauly Shore is a piece of shit.
Yeah, that is what I have heard.
And I always play devil's advocate. Anytime I hear on the news, this guy's getting canceled, I'm like, I'm going to check this out. This is fucking biased somehow. Not biased with Pauly Shore. He's just a brat who got famous too quick, and he never got over it, and he still's not getting over it. He was like, but Harlan and Tom Green, coolest fucking, literally one of the coolest people I've ever met. They're like, take as many pictures as you want, if whatever you want to talk. Did you enjoy the show? They're like, it was really cool. But yeah, so what do you have any like mics that you said were like memorably like horrible or like interesting?
The worst show that I ever did in my entire life was I got booked to do it's like a run that they used to do. It was a company called Bonkers that does casinos in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and Wisconsin.
Do they own a club called Bonkers?
They call it the club, but they just do rooms in casinos. So I don't think they have an actual like standalone club.
Are they in like Wakanda or something?
Maybe. There was one in like there was Thursday night. You were in.
It's a timed feeding thing with a sound clip.
All right, you were in like Thursday night. You were in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan in a place called Sault Ste. Marie, which is one exit before Canada. So that's how far north you are.
Oh wow!
Then Friday you have to drive from there to Milwaukee because you have a show Saturday at the Potawatomi Casino in Milwaukee. So it's like. But it's like 9 hours drive from here to Sault Ste. Marie on Thursday, and then 8 hours from there to Milwaukee. And
is it one of those places it's always winter?
Probably. I mean, it was January when I did it, so it was fucking cold. And I'm in Milwaukee on a Saturday night, and there is a Packers-Vikings playoff game. And so I'm in a casino, in the theater in a casino in Milwaukee during a Packers-Vikings playoff game. Like, I was watching the game backstage. There are 11 people in the Northern Lights Theater. It is a giant fucking room. And there are 11 people in the room. And I walk out on stage, and I, like, would tell a story about this, like, on stage. And they just, like, this lady just called me gay. And so, like, that was the worst comedy experience I ever had. It was like I had to do a half hour and in front of and they got kicked out, so then there were only 9 people in a theater.
Wow.
It was one of the worst experiences of my entire life.
When you were doing it, could you just like the whole time, like when they have a casino in a movie, like you just keep hearing the slots going?
Oh, see, at least this was like a separate room. So like the casino, it's a really nice place, and it has like a big theater. And they don't do the show in the theater anymore. They have like a bar now. So it's like you can't hear the casino going on at least.
That's a little bit better.
Yeah, it was a nice place. The show was just terrible.
Yeah. Wow. That's funny though. Do you think like you would never do that again, probably, right?
I mean, I performed there again after that, but it was in a different room. So it wasn't in the theater anymore, and it went much better. It was a much better show.
Okay, cool. So I wanted to get into, since like we have only like a half hour left, we're talking about music. So you listen to a lot of jam bands, like what I have, like, there's that ongoing joke where people say like it's the same thing with Tool. Where Tool fans, what's your favorite band? Tool and only fucking Tool.
Yeah.
So do you think you feel the same way where it's like, I found with Fish fans, it's like Fish, Grateful Dead. What's the other one in my, let me think real quick. Is it Snarky Puppy and like Wookie Foot? Is it, do you know any of those? Or
I mean, I listen to Fish. I like the Grateful Dead. I'm not like a big Grateful Dead guy, but I listen to a lot of other music too. But Fish is just my favorite band.
Okay.
I've never heard of Wookie Foot or whatever this other.
Okay. You never heard of Snarky Puppy either?
No.
Snarky Puppy. I like Snarky Puppy out of all those the best. It's like, I guess I would explain it like Fish with like big band jazz a little incorporated, and I don't think they sing. They just have like it's a weird, like it's jamming, but it's like with jazz instruments, so it's kind of cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. Do you like Ween?
Yeah, there are. I mean, I like Ween. I mean, Fish covered some of their songs, which is like how I heard about Ween.
Oh, okay.
So that was like my first experience with them, but I enjoy them.
Cool. Did you so you were looking at my guitars. Do you play any other instruments? You play guitar?
Yeah, I play guitar. I play bass. I played an electric ukulele in my high school talent show when I was a senior in high school. So I could play like any stringed instrument.
Is an electric ukulele? It's just hooked up to an amp, or did you have like distortion pedals?
I mean, I could put distortion pedals on it. I played it. I have a half stack, and so I played an electric ukulele through a half stack in my high school talent show.
That's hilarious. That's pretty funny. Like, what kind of guitars do you own?
I have a Les Paul. It was my dad's. And then I have my acoustic that I play the most is an Ovation. It's like a 1967 Ovation Balladeer. It's a really nice guitar. It was my dad's, so it's like really...
That's cool.
They don't make guitars like that anymore. They're so cheaply made now. That it's beautiful. Like, you don't get guitars that sound like that or play like that anymore. Yeah. So this was not like mass produced. Like, you could tell that someone put time into this thing.
Yeah.
And you just still... I mean, it's, like 60 years old almost, and it fucking plays beautiful. It's just...
Yeah.
Great.
Nobody puts the time. I knew a guy who, so I was in a psych rock hippie band for like we played actively for 7 years. I still release shit under the name, but I don't ever perform because I could play everything. I've learned everything. I learned everything through ear. It was like they had a free class I went to Catholic school in Chicago. Learned like the fucking 5 basic chords, C, G, E, A, D, and I don't know, maybe F, and like from there I just learned everything through ear. But I knew a guy recently, like from lockdown to like the end of lockdown, because we fucking hated each other. I had a black metal band, and my band member knew a guy who was like a roofer, and he would make custom guitars, but it was like, there's too many there. It's like, there's no really mind put to how can I make this sound good? It was just like, all right, I want to make a guitar in the shape of a meatball with spaghetti strands. You know, like it was just like, or like the star in Kiss, you know?
And no, I want it to sound good. I mean, my Les Paul is like it's just like the plain cherry finish.
Oh,
so it's
nice.
just wood. It's just like a 10-pound piece of mahogany.
Yeah,
and it sounds
it's one
great.
piece, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
It's a great guitar. I love playing it.
You know, that's the difference between like the fuck was I gonna say? Like Gibson and Epiphone, right?
Yeah,
is the one piece and the two piece. Like it's like Honda compared to Acura.
Yeah, and I think that people get way too concerned about like what brand of guitar and all that stuff. Like it's like really important when you're like first playing. You know, it's like, oh, I have a Gibson. That's better than your Epiphone. Who cares?
Yeah.
Just play the guitar and have fun.
I always was, and I think this is part of that, like what I was talking about, like that immigrant mentality, where I'd find something weird and quirky, and I'm like, what's like the most weirdness I can milk out of this, you know? So like all of my metal albums, the guitar that I play is a fucking Strat, you know, and nobody would play that. Like, you know, any metal bands like James Hetfield, they usually have like Jackson's, Ibanez, or LTD, and it's like, no, like I like the way this sounds, and I manipulate it. Like there'd be moments where I do vocals and I'm running it through the pedal board, you know, like shit like that. The coolest thing I ever experienced was in my like hippie type psych band. The way I explain it to people is it was like an American version of Oasis, you know. I like a lot of like, I don't know if you've ever heard like My Bloody Valentine, the shoegaze stuff, or Jesus and Mary Chain, you know. And like the coolest thing that I remember this kid did for me was I taught myself how to play a sitar. I bought one off Craigslist from like this guy that looked exactly like the hippie teacher in Beavis and Butthead. And the thing that sucks about sitars is, I don't know, have you ever seen how it, like up close how it looks? You know that bowl that's on the neck?
Yeah.
That's when you're playing alone for yourself, you can take that bowl off. But if you're like meditating, or like oftentimes they play like during like a Buddhist prayer or Hindu prayer, they put that bowl on so that it's like almost like an amplifier for it. The thing that sucks is when you're writing an album, I had to set up a mic stand that is clearly like, you know, yours, like it can move around, it can droop. You have to keep it in that bowl, and you have to stay still.
Oh,
that's the only way to mic it.
Yeah.
So I had a fucking friend who he's like, oh, I jerry-rigged a sitar. And I'm like, I don't believe this guy. This is a random fucking guy. And he actually did it well. what he did was he took like a regular It wasn't even a Fender. It was like a Toys R Us version of Fender. And you know how, when you buy 12 strings for a 12-string guitar, he put 12 strings on a 6-string guitar, so that when you strum like the first string, that synchronizing string, that extra string, is vibrating against it, and then he just put this block that he screwed into the guitar against the strings, so it would make that buzzing sound. And it was the coolest thing. I got rid of it because there's only so many songs you can use a sitar in,
Yeah.
But but yeah, yeah, that's cool. So what other types of music? Like, I'm like a real picky bitch in each genre.
Yeah.
And but I do listen to a lot, like, all over the place. The funniest thing I'm trying to write a bit about this is I recently went on a small, like, summer vacation trip, and it was like a week from when my mom was going to die. So I was like down in the dumps and shit. And it was my friend's family's cousin that we went on this boat, and she's blasting this country artist, Morgan Wallen. People are going to make fun of me because Morgan Wallen is like to country what like Britney Spears would be to rock and roll. It's like the poppiest fuck.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I felt so weird. It was like coming out of the closet. Like, I'm like, I've always hated country. What's happening to me,
Yeah.
But
I've never been a country guy.
He's the only guy. Like, after I listened to him, I tried to get into other shit. Obviously, there's the big ones like fucking whatever, Alan Jackson, Garth Brooks, whatever. I can't get into that shit. But yeah, what other stuff do you think you listen to? Like,
I love Parliament.
Okay.
The old funk band with George Clinton and Bootsy Collins from the 70s. I love them. Funkadelic, which would be like the psychedelic offshoot that they had.
Yeah.
I really like that stuff. I mean, I was really into Jimi Hendrix for a long time. That was like my first like hero on the guitar, so I just tried to play like Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah. Cool.
So,
is there any other like anything else like
I mean, I really like Radiohead. I'm a big fan.
Oh, I love Radiohead, yeah. Do you like Tom's solo stuff?
I haven't gotten into it too much. I'm kind of at the point where I'm like not like learning any more new music.
I know exactly.
I've kind
what you
of
mean.
given up on that. Like, I try and stay on top of like what's going on in like comedy and like TV and movies, but music is too much.
Yeah,
I just don't like. I don't have Spotify. Like, I don't need to like.
How old are you again?
33.
Okay.
I think. Yeah. I'm 33 now.
I'm 35, and yeah, there's that joke. You hit 30, you don't want anything.
I don't need to. I feel like I know enough music.
Yeah.
I don't need any more. So.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean. It's one of my favorite horror movies. It's called you ever hear Suspiria?
No, I'm not a horror guy at all. I don't like scary things.
Okay. It's a remake from the 70s. I only saw the new one. It's a really cool premise. It's like there's this American chick who I think it takes place like in the 30s, 40s, where she hears about like the #1 ballet group. It exists in like, I think it's France, and she goes there to try because she thinks she can make it, because there's all these people that they're so strict that they're like, it's a revolving door, and she goes there. She kind of figures out that the ballet group is like a witch cult, and so the reason why they're doing so amazing is because they're willingly becoming possessed witches, and I was like, I fucking love the soundtrack in this, and turns out the whole soundtrack was Tom's from Radiohead. Do you remember Aphex Twin?
Yeah.
You like Aphex?
Yeah.
I just remember like his ambient shit went hand in hand with Radiohead, but yeah, I go all over the place. Is there anything? What have you been listening to top 3 recently? Is it just probably the same?
Just mostly Fish.
Mostly Fish.
Yeah.
No, that's cool, man.
So like I've been trying to like dive into like different years because like with jam band and like with improv it changes over time, and so like the way that they played in like 93 was different than what they were doing in 97.
Yeah.
And so like I kind of like to dive into like 1 year at a time.
Yeah.
And, like try and understand like musically like why they were making the choices that they were, and like how I can like incorporate that stuff into like what I'm playing at home, and how like how they like change from one key to another, how they do that, and how they like do it on the fly, and try and figure out like how you can do that in a way that like makes sense and isn't like jarring and like bad to listen to.
Yeah. I have I think I mentioned before the podcast, but I had a friend who was, the whole band was influenced by Fish.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny. Like I was saying that we had a falling out because the singer, we were sharing a jam space, and he wanted a lot of people who are like into jam music, or even musicians in general. They're like, I want to become good at every craft, every instrument, And so the singer of this band, they're called Zoo Funk U now, which I know it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, but like jam bands should have stupid names.
Yeah, but the thing that made me laugh was the reason why they had that name was because before, when I met them, they were just called Zoo, and I literally went up to the guy, I go, "Are you sure that name is not taken, like copyrighted somewhere?" And that's when they changed it. They're like, "Oh fuck," But they're very talented musicians. I know them well because the bassist in Zoo Funk U was the brother of my brother's best friend, and he actually plays like in I forgot what it's called, if it's old school City of Folk or whatever. They have like that jazz orchestra thing in Chicago.
Yeah.
But before we end on music real quick, I wanted to say, have you ever heard of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard?
I have.
Do you like them?
Yeah, I've kind of like just heard a little bit. I know that there's a lot of like it's weird, like some Fish fans are like really into them, and then some are really not into them.
Did you just recently get into them?
Yeah, I just kind of like started listening a little bit.
So what's amazing about that band, why they're so for I gotta jerk myself off and give my claim to fame. When I was in my band's called Krollklex, which is it's pronounced Krollklex, which is just it translates to King Inkblot, which is just it was this. I always tell people the easiest way to explain it. It was like an Willy Wonka version movie that's Polish. Okay. It's really weird and quirky.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest fucking thing ever. It's about an orphanage that only accepts boys with the name that start with an A, and they travel through fairy tales. It's really psychedelic. But when I first started out, the one band I kept getting compared to was King Gizzard, but they weren't big yet. But the reason why there's such a huge fuss about them, that's amazing. So I was into a band. Have you ever heard of Brian Jonestown Massacre?
Mm-hmm.
That's the band that I was obsessed with.
Yeah.
And in 7 years, it's like I became a super fan to I became friends with them. We communicated regularly. I almost got on a festival, and then my stupid fucking band members left. So it like fell apart. But we were never on. That's why I like being a comedian. When you're in a fucking band, this guy is in it because he wants to fuck underage girls. This guy is in it for drug money. This guy is in it, like no one's on the same page, and I'm done babysitting,
I don't like working with other people.
Yeah. So, but the thing about, King Gizzard kind of did a similar thing to Brian Jonestown Massacre, which is they would write albums that are similar to their influences, and the whole album would be that. So, for example, like Brian Jonestown Massacre, they have an album that sounds like Jesus and Mary Chain. It's just called Methadrone. The whole album sounds like that. And then, when, are you familiar when Rolling Stones had their psychedelic phase?
Yeah.
Like their Satanic Majesties?
Yeah.
Brian Jonestown released their Satanic Majesties' second request. Like they're very straightforward with, yes, we understand we're kind of copying. So the thing that's crazy about King Gizzard is they do the same thing, but I'm not joking, they release, I think during lockdown they released 10 albums in 1 year.
That's crazy.
It is fucking crazy. And it's awesome because there's like one album sounds like Sgt. Pepper. One album sounds like fucking Brian Jonestown Massacre. They released an album that they were just influenced by Slayer, which is so funny because it's just, imagine if like Fish played Slayer, you know?
Yeah.
They're not screaming, they're not, but the music is kind of Slayerish. It's kind of it's got that improvising of like, you know, but anyways, that's the one thing I would, if you take a deep dive into, that would be it. The only other thing, I keep saying it's the last thing, but have you ever liked Velvet Underground?
Yeah.
I fucking love them.
I mean, weirdly, I got into them because of Fish. Like, you're talking about how, like, King Gizzard or like, Brian Jonestown Massacre will, like, do an album like another band. What Fish would do is they would do on Halloween, they would dress up as another band, and they would, like, play an entire album.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, like, they did the White Album.
Yeah.
And then they did Quadrophenia, and then they did Loaded by the Velvet Underground.
Nice.
And so that was like how I first heard the Velvet Underground. But man, I love them. I think there's so many great fucking songs.
Yeah, I always tell this to people who love Velvet. Did you know like the whole story with Nico?
No, not really.
So I got into this because I'll keep it quick. But when people started getting quote unquote canceled, I just hate people who are hypocrites. Like, we're gonna fucking hate on this guy. Like, we're gonna hate on cancel Louis C.K. for jagging off in front of people, but we still have Michael Jackson on the radio, you know, when he's clearly had some creepy shit going on. So the thing about Velvet Underground that's interesting is I tell this because it is an interesting story. I never liked Nico.
Yeah.
I never liked that voice. Like, to me, it honestly sounded like Arnold Schwarzenegger singing, you know? And I was like, what's the story with this? Because they have all these great albums, and then she just came out of nowhere. And I read that she was kind of raised in a rich family that, you know how like child stars are raised to be actors? Mm-hmm. She was raised to be a supermodel, and then she kind of like fell off because something like she got out of shape, or her, you know how models are, you fucking gain half a pound and you're out. So she asked her manager, she's like, what can I do to keep my career going? And they're like, there's this crazy fucking thing going on in New York with this band Velvet Underground, and they have these shows where they shoot heroin, and it's in a fucking art gallery with Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
So they approached Lou Reed, and they're like, we're gonna give you this much money if you let this chick just sing on your album. And turns out she was like a real fucking Nazi. She was like, there's a story where she like went with the manager for a meeting to like, because she's from Norway, so it wasn't really that diverse back then. And she's just at this fancy restaurant, and she sees like black people dining there. She just started throwing shit at them and dropping N-bombs, which I thought was, which the reason why I bring that up is like when these people who like, they would hate on somebody, I'm like, well, you like Nico a lot, you know? But I don't know. Interesting story. Did you ever hear about how like that Banana album used to be Scratch and Sniff when it first came out?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, that thing is worth a shit ton of money.
That's crazy.
Like when it first came out, because obviously like Andy Warhol inspired, you'd peel it off and the banana inside is like pink and it would like smell. But anyways, I want to end it off. We got like 10 minutes.
All right.
You're special, man. You're fucking filming a special at Comedy Vault. I'm glad that you picked that place because I have only been there 3 times. That place almost seems more professional to me than Zany's. Like,
yeah, I mean, they have been open for like a year, a little more than that, and they've been very nice to me. I've had a lot of opportunities there. It is probably my favorite place to perform.
Yeah,
I feel like when that room is full, there is no other room around that's like it, and so I'm really excited. I'm like almost ready with the material. I feel like I'm there's like 2 things that I'm still trying to figure out, but you know, I got like the first 40 minutes out of 45 is all done and ready to go.
Yeah,
I'm excited to just kind of finish it up and then put it out there and see what happens with it.
I have to tell you congrats for like the 7th time, and also because
Thank you.
Because this is a YouTube channel, so it's like those guys that they can't just give homeless people food. You have to do it on camera to seem good. So congrats for the stuff. But like, do you think like, are you nervous that like that whole thing where you're going to do your special and then like you kind of have to like toss that material?
No, I'm not. I'm excited by that because I'm not scared of having to write new jokes. I can write jokes.
Okay.
Like I feel like I've kind of been like working on, these jokes for a very long time, and I think it's really exciting to see what else is out there.
Is this the first time you've recorded?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like my comedy has always I've always looked inward. Like it's always been about me and my own experiences, and so it'd be interesting, I think, to like start looking outward and talking more about like the rest of the world instead of just me. So
yeah. That's cool, man.
It's kind of.
Are you doing that thing like where you got to do like 3 recordings and then you got to like pick out the best?
I'm just doing one.
Just one, man. One fucking take. Yep. That's the way to do it with Jack Baker.
I'm not afraid. I feel like whatever happens, that's what's meant to be.
That's awesome.
It'll be a good. I mean, we've already got like 110 roughly tickets sold.
Yeah.
So. I think it's going to be like 180. We should sell out, but if you want to buy some tickets, that would be nice.
Yeah.
People on YouTube. I'm looking directly at the camera.
Yeah. Fucking do it. I got my 2, me and my wife.
Oh, awesome.
And fucking like.
I'm excited. It's going to be fun. I feel. Yeah, it's going to be fun. There's nothing like it. When you are like performing in a room full of people that are there to see you, it's like a crazy feeling. Like and you can do anything and anyone's going to laugh.
I can't tell you how many people I know. And dude, people know me. I don't fucking kiss ass. I'm honest. I can't tell you how many people I know in the city, in the burbs that tell me, dude, Jack Baker's like one of the best fucking writers.
Oh, thank you.
So it is going to be, it is, I, if anything, I'd be afraid to fucking break out crying because it's going to be a crowd of people inspired by you, all friends, know?
I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be weird because like I get personal. Like I talk about some bad shit that happened and it's just weird like for people who don't know that.
Yeah.
It can kind of like, it'll change the way that like it'll change our interactions later on.
Yeah,
like some like
what you're saying is you're coming out of the closet on stage.
No,
I'm just joking.
No, Gerard Carmichael already did that.
Yeah,
he did a special. It was really good. But yeah, so it'll be interesting. It'll probably change the way that people.
It is February
19th.
February 19th.
Sunday, February.
Comedy
19th.
Vault. If anything, dude, I'll release this ASAP and just tag you. And yeah, dude, it is going to be awesome. It is awesome. I love comedy. Like,
it's a great place. So I'm very excited. They were very, I'm very excited that they wanted me to do it there, and they've been great to work with. So. And
you said 45 minutes?
Yeah.
Do you think you're having any openers?
Yeah, it's going to be Jim Flanagan and Matt Drufke are going to open the show.
Oh my God, that is awesome.
So it's going to be really good. They're both very good friends. Performed with both of them a lot. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I've seen Jim a bunch of times at Joe's. Matt, like I said, I've seen him at the Burbies, which is, it's so funny because it's like the extremes of politics. People being like, they're bullshit or they love it. And I thought it was a great thing put together. That's fucking awesome, the way it was put together. But yeah, that's awesome. They've been doing his comedy as long as you, right?
Yeah, they both were doing comedy before I was. Jim wasn't like doing too much.
Okay.
When I first started, he was kind of like in and out at times.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, I mean, he's one of the best. So it's fun to like see him how he's like grown and now like does it full time. So
yeah. Do you think or maybe it's a surprise? Are you gonna do? You thinking of doing any crowd work in it?
No.
Okay.
No, this is all about me. So
yeah,
it's 45 minutes about me.
Absolutely, man.
I would be disappointed if I do crowd work because that means someone talked.
Yeah.
And that's gonna kind of piss me off.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's good that all your loved ones are gonna be. There's not gonna be some drunk idiot like, it's been being taped, so I gotta be in this. Like
I'm gonna get kicked the fuck out.
Yeah. Like I just heard that like I saw Mark Norman like whatever, a year ago,
yeah,
or in August, and it was like a reasonable price to go see him. He's taping his special in, I think, March at the Vic.
Mm-hmm.
It's like $200 a ticket,
That's crazy.
And I know his whole thing is kind of crowd work, so I think he expects like people to fucking yell out at him. But anyways, man, absolutely awesome. I don't know what else we could talk. I don't know how much more I could plug this because and like I said, I don't fucking kiss ass. So many people ask me, go to their show, go to this, and it's like, well, I like one person on that lineup. This is a fucking great lineup.
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
It's a great lineup, awesome price, awesome venue. Come out to see Jack Baker. Thank you for being on this podcast.